one of the most popular reviews I've done on House of Cars is with this car, the Dacia Jogger. And it is what I consider to be probably the best car in the real world. Now let me explain what I mean about that, because it's all very well sort of like, you know, having high performance hypercars or sort of, you know, sort of luxury off-roaders or all. What people want is bang for buck. The cost of living these days is not cheap. So what you need to get is the most versatility for the amount of money that you're looking to spend. And I don't think there's a car really out there that can touch the Jogger. It's an estate car. It's an MPV, it's an SUV. It just does all the jobs that you need a family car to do. You know, it's not big and pretentious, it's not fancy, it's not overly complicated. It's just a good, hard-working car for hard-working people that don't want to spend a huge amount of their hard-earned cash. And that is what makes the Dacia brand a real winner in my book. The problem is, however, as a brand grows and becomes more popular, it starts to attract in new customers. It attracts new customers that maybe have certain expectations that the brand hadn't really considered before, and therefore it tries to meet those expectations. Which is why I'm approaching the new Dacia Duster with an air of cautious trepidation, so we say, because I'm looking through a press pack that says that they've concentrated on greater interior comfort, they've got new design language, and of course better and more advanced hybrid drivetrains. Now all of that adds weight, complexity and cost. So have Dacia forgotten its roots? Have they forgotten what makes the Duster such an appealing and, dare I suggest, such a popular little SUV? Or have they managed to embrace all of what made it so good in the first place, but still attracting some new customers with the new car? Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the all-new Dacia Duster. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the House of Cars. Now, before I get started on this week's review of Dacia's all-new Duster, it is of course that time where I need to be a little bit cheeky. I know I say it every week, but there's a reason for it. I have got some subscribers, but I would like an awful lot more because that helps the channel, yeah? So if you're not already a subscriber to the House of Cars channel, would you please consider becoming one? Once you've done that, make sure you press the little bell button down below, because that's the way you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you enjoy it, once you've watched it, obviously hope you do, then give it a wee thumbs up, and of course don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that we feature on the House of Cars channel, such as Dacia's Duster, and of course on the channel as a whole. So the Dacia Duster, a really popular little car. In fact, it's Europe's best selling SUV in the private sector. They've sold loads of them, and it was the car, the original Duster was the car that the brand launched in the UK with back in 2013. And then of course we saw sort of like the second generation car in 2017, I think it was, when the new one came out. Now, this is an all new one, which, as I say, has got me a little bit worried, which I'll talk to you about in a wee second. But the reason why the Duster was so popular was, and I say this with absolute respect to anyone that's out there who has one of these cars, it's a cheap car, and it's cheap for a reason. But it was also one of those cars that it seemed to sort of like under promise yet over deliver. You know, there really isn't a scenario where a Duster doesn't seem to work. You know, just school run, shopping, round about town. It's small and compact, easy manoeuvrable. It's big enough though if you want to stick your family in it and go off camping for, like, you know, a couple of weeks down in the Dordogne or whatever. And it's also great when the road, well, when the road stops and it turns to this kind of stuff, because it just gets its sleeves rolled up and just gets on with it. There really isn't a scenario where the Duster doesn't seem to work, which is why I'm worried, because when they start talking about, you know, hybridized drivetrains and greater interior comfort and new technologies and stuff like that, I'm going, oh, hang on a second. Are you forgetting what made the Duster such a good car in the first place? Or have they managed to keep all that stuff that made it brilliant, add all the new stuff to it, and still keep it as desirable and, dare I suggest, as inexpensive as the original car was? However, before we move on, let's take a little snapshot of Dacia's new Duster. So the new Duster is an entirely new car, and it sits on the CMF-B platform from parent company Renault that also underpins the Clio and of course its technical partner Nissan's Juke, as well as the Dacia Sandero and the Jogger. There's no diesel engines with this model, however you do get a choice of either mild hybrid, full hybrid and even a bi-fuel petrol and LPG engine. It has a choice of both two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive depending on the engine chosen. There are 4 trim levels to choose from. And prices start from just under £19,000 and climb to just over £27,000 depending on the model that you choose. Which means it's still quite cheap to buy, relatively. But does that mean that to get all of that new stuff into it, they've had to cut corners and make it quite cheap feeling to drive? Time to find out in this week's new car review on House of Cars. Right, let's kick off with design. I love the look of this car. I absolutely adore it. Look at it. What a chunky little monkey, isn't it? It's a brilliant little thing. New Dacia design language, but again, it sort of ties in with the rest of the family without making it look samey. Do you know what I mean? So it's got the Y element to it, as I'm going to call it. You know, you get these Y-shaped DRL's head and the headlights there as well, and you see other little Y shapes around the car as well. The big bold Dacia logo in the centre of the grille and the white. It's almost Jeep-like at the front. Do you know what I mean? It's got that sort of Jeep look about it, which is probably why I like it so much, because I like Jeep. But I think it looks great. Now, they're talking a lot about sustainability, which is something I absolutely love to hear car manufacturers talk about, and the materials that they use in it. And this has just got bags of interesting and brilliant use of materials round about it. This bumper area here, for instance, okay, this plastic area here is what they call made in mass. In other words, it's that colour when they make it. They don't paint it. So if it gets scratched or bumped or anything like that, it's the same colour underneath. So, you know, when you get parking dings on it and scratches on it and stuff like that, it's just the same colour underneath. It makes it cheaper to make because you're not painting it, and it's more rough and tough than and of course, because you're not using the paint, it's more ecological to produce it. How simple is that? I mean, other manufacturers do it, but I love the fact it's like that. And it looks great. Now, the front bumper here, this area here is different or when you go to the 4x4 model. It's just slightly different around. This is a two-wheel drive one. There's four-wheel drive ones here today. I'm in a quarry, for God's sake, in the middle of Derbyshire. But, you know, we're going to be taking them off-road as well. But the 4x4's got a slightly different bumper at the front here to allow sort of like a slightly better approach angle. You wouldn't notice it at first glance, but with the two sat side by side, you can just see it. But you get this lovely sort of like open grille sort of like at the front here to a bit more cooling in. Obviously, you get the grille up here as well. There's parking sensors along the front of it. And a little front-mounted camera just between in the badge there. Again, you have to look hard to find that. Look at the sculpting of the bonnet, the way it just sort of like it rises at the sides and then at the middle section. It's difficult to see on this beige colour. I think they call it stonewash or something like that. But you've got a hump in the middle centre here, and then it goes in here and then comes back up over the top of the wheel arches. I love the look of this thing. It looks fantastic. Some nice little airflow management around the side there, just to help the little bit of the aero work, which you're going to need because it's quite a bluff looking little car. But I think we're off to a great start. What a cracking looking front end to a little 4x4. So with all the new kind of grown up tech that's in the car, has the car actually grown up? No, it's pretty much the same size as what you had before with the old Duster. It's just 2mm longer, but it is 9mm wider, but they've made it slightly lower to give it that more kind of squat appearance. So it's still a B segment SUV, so that's the sort of size of car that you're looking at, which again is what people want, I think. I want to talk to you about this material here. The plastic around the wheel arches, around this what they call the snorkel. This is this particular design feature called the snorkel. And as I say, all around the bottom of the car. It's called Starkel, okay? And basically it's made up of 20% recyclable plastic. See what I mean about the sustainability and the use of materials. But the interesting thing with it is, if you look closely up at it, you think it's covered in little spots and you try and wipe it clean. That's the sort of like the mottled effect that comes from the production process. They've just left it naturally to give it a bit more of a feature, and I love that. I think that's fantastic. It looks so different, and just it has a great message of sustainability, because whilst it's made up new with just 20% recyclable plastics, 100% of it can then be recycled. Fantastic. Right, and that's all around the car. So you see at the front, the wheel arch extension, the snorkel down the side there, so a lot of protection, you know, sort of like, you know, so again, and look as well, the ride height, the approach and the departure angles of the car. And okay, this is just the two-wheel drive one, but if you go off the beaten track, you know, they're talking about Dacia customers, you know, if you enjoy camping out in the wild somewhere, or you do wild swimming, which is obviously very popular, and maybe to get to where you're going, I mean, Christ, I'm in the middle of a quarry. Let's be honest, you know, to get here, you want sort of like good departure, approach and departure angles with good ground clearance, and that's what you get here. It also makes it nice and easy to get in and out of the car if you're slightly older and you have limited mobility. Wheels pushed right out to the extremities of the car, so a lot of interior space with it, so that's good as well. But yeah, look at it. Sandstone is what the colour's called. Roof rails, like we saw on the jogger, these are these adaptable roof rails. So you basically can clip these out. There's a couple of tools, you just got to unscrew them, and then you put them across and use them as roof bars. And then you've got a whole load of modular accessories, so roof racks, bike racks, all that type of thing. There's a really clever system they've integrated into the car, more so with the interior, called U-clip, which I'll talk to you about in a wee second, which just makes it just easy for family life. You get the contrast, sort of like this kind of grey door mirror here, done in the, as I say, in the grey on this one. This is a Journey trim. I'll go through trims and prices with you later on as well, but this is sort of mid-level Journey trim level. It's got privacy glass here, the door handle integrated into this rear C-pillar, which is nice, keeps the line through here nice and clean. You've got a nice little line that just starts to merge out of the door here and then round into the rear and then up into the pillar there, which is a really nice little touch. I like that. And this little kick up in the rear window line there. And then obviously you've got your fuel flap over at this side as well. There's no plug-in hybrid. I've talked about hybrids. There's no plug-in hybrid with it, but again, we'll talk about the technical side of it later on. 18-inch wheels are the biggest you get. You don't go any higher than that. I think they start at 17s. The base model, I think, gets Steelies. But these are, because I say with this particular trim, these are these kind of diamond turned, which look lovely, but obviously if they're in amongst rocks and stuff like that, may end up getting a little bit hammered by that type of terrain that we're in at the moment. But in terms of the way it looks, I love it. I think it looks great. And it's the same around the back. You see the Y element again, like that, yeah? It's also like that on the wheels as well. I should have pointed that out. I'll put a little bit of B-roll up there. You get the Y shape on the alloy wheels, which is nice too. Rear wiper. Roof spoiler, again, lights up the bonnet. That nice kind of, where it dips in and just comes out. I like that. Big high level brake lamp there. You get a reversing camera on it tucked up underneath there. No electric tailgate. Don't need it. Adds weight, adds complexity. Don't need it. That's fine. You do get the big Dacia kind of lettering across there, but of course your Duster is just done in a sticker. Again, to keep costs down and complexity down. Same at the back as it is at the front, with this sort of like, you know, made in mass sort of like plastic here that, as I say, they'll take all the bumps and scrapes on it as well. So look, I think by now you might have gathered that I like the look of this car. But I really do like Dacia's design language. I genuinely do. From the little Sandero, you know, through the jogger, I think is a great example of a car that's just designed with proper family use in mind. And I think it's the same here. I think what they've done is they've approached it and they've looked at what made the Duster so good in the first place in terms of its design and just brought it a little bit more up to date, made it look a little bit more sophisticated, but still outdoorsy and kind of chunky as well. But they've not gone too overboard with it. I love the use of this Starco material. I love the way they talk about sustainability and good for the environment, that type of thing. And again, keeping costs down. So if you do bump it, you don't have to have it repainted and things like that. So all of that stuff is speaking volumes to me, and I think we're off to a really good start. But you might be out there looking to buy this car. So it's important to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about it? Have they done too much? Do you think it's grown up too much? Do you think it all looks too complicated, Brian? They've done something that's just not Dacia for me. You know, I like the rugged simplicity of the old car. Or did you have the old car and you're thinking, wow, that's going to be a trade-in for me as far as I'm concerned? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Right, practicality. Okay, let's talk about that now, okay? It's a B segment SUV, okay? So in terms of boot space, it's a bit confusing, if I'm being honest with you, because the press pack has said some figures, they've said other figures here. I read that it only has a boot space of around about 340 litres, but then this morning in the press presentation, they said it's between 430 and 517 litres. It all depends on the drivetrain. That's effectively what I can gather here. Plus as well, you've got this boot floor which can obviously be removed. So obviously if you take that out, it's the bigger figure. But if you go for a 4x4, it's slightly smaller, because obviously you've got transfer case and, you know, rear drivetrain and different rear suspension on the 4x4. But even so, it's a good size of space, I think. And of course, you've got the 60-40 split rear seat, which when you fold that down, takes total capacity up to over 1,500 litres. Okay, so just check that depending on what you want to use the car for, will fit, because it depends on the drivetrain you go for as to the actual boot size. So it's not quite clear cut. Dacia seemed to be quoting the total volume with the boot floor removed. Yeah, which probably means to me is about 430 litres. No, this must be the biggest one, 517, because this is the two-wheel drive. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's that size of boot space. Okay, look at this again. Boot floor. You can then put this upright to hold your shopping bags in there like that, because it's got a little stays there. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about that they've really thought about. Now, this U-clip business I'm talking about. I'll put some B-roll up of it, but basically there's these little square clips around the car. There's various bits around it where you can buy some accessories. There's one here, there's one on this side as well, there's some on the inside, there's one in the boot lid here, and this is the one that I thought was quite interesting, why there's one here. So there's various different things that you can buy for the car to clip on. Yeah, so for instance, again, using that wild swimming scenario I was talking about earlier, or if you surf. When we go to Cornwall every year, my daughter is learning how to surf, so she's got her wetsuit. So for instance, what you can do is you can put a clip on there to hang a wetsuit off, you know, while she gets changed and stuff like that. Simple stuff like that. You know, there's other things where you can hang shopping bags from them so they don't fly around in the boot. There's clips on the inside where you can get extra bits for, you know, cup holders, tablet holders for the backs of the front seats so the kids can watch their tablets in the back. There's phone holders, all sorts of things you can buy in the accessories. The other thing with it is they've also developed the sleep pack for the jogger as well. Sorry, for the Duster as well. You can get it on the jogger where you can turn it into like a little mini camper, if you like, where you've got that double mattress you can lay down. So, you know, if you're out camping or something with a tent on the back, you can do that with Duster now. They've developed a sleep pack for it as well. I just love the way that they think. I love the way that they're thinking. How do our customers use our cars? And how can we make it easier for them to use them in that way? That's the type of thinking I think manufacturers, you know, I commend manufacturers for doing, rather than saying, oh, we're going to make a really big expensive 4x4 and that's it and it's 50 grand. No, I don't want a big 50,000, but this is brilliant. This just works for me. So yeah, check the boot space for the individual one you're thinking of, but a good usable space, very practical, just for common stuff as well. The other thing that's quite nice as well is if you go for the extreme model, which is the sort of off-roady one, you get recycled rubber mats on the inside as well, so you can just whip them out and jet wash them once you've finished doing all your off-roady wild camping, wild swimming, mountain biking, whatever it is you do. Just brilliant. Well done, Dacia, well done. See, recycled rubber foot mats with a kind of contour thing. Just take them out and you get the little recycled motif on it. Take them out, jet wash them, stick them back in. Love that, love that. Right, rear space. Well look, it's a compact little SUV. So, but even so, I mean, I'm 5'8". That is my driving position, okay? I have enough space to sit behind me. And it's good in all areas in terms of foot space. I can get my feet right underneath the driver's seat in front of me, as I say, because that's set up for me. There's just enough length in the squab, so it just bulges out at either end there to give you a little bit under thigh support. You know, there's plenty of headroom in the car. No sunroofs on the car, so there's no panoramic roof or anything like that. So nice bit of headroom in there. If you're sort of got a penchant for wearing hats in cars, you should be okay in here as long as you're my height. There isn't an armrest, however. That's the downside. There's no armrest there. But again, like I was saying earlier about that U-clip system, there's a little clip there, so you can buy a little fixtures here for cup holders and stuff like. Now the door bins will not take a water bottle in the back, so that is one you would certainly need to have there, or the little bit that clips into there, because I say if your kids take a water bottle in the back, it's not going to fit in terms of, you know, a proper water bottle. You've probably got a plastic one in there, but not much else. But there's a doorbell, so they can drop their bits and pieces in there, plus they've got the pockets on the backs of the seats. A little gripe I have, Dacia, you've got these silly zips for the Isofix covers. Stellantis do this, and I hate them. They're horrible. They're going to break. They should just leave them exposed or have plastic covers on them, because I think those are just going to end up getting broken and ripping, and that's my downside with that. So all's not great. And as I say, there's no centre armrest as well, which would just add a little bit more storage and practicality. Use of materials on the inside. Again, really, really nice sort of like cloth. And on the extreme model, they've got a cloth and almost like a wetsuit material that if you spill a liquid on, it beads. So it doesn't soak into it, so you can just wipe it off. You know, you've got kids, that's what you want, isn't it? Surely, you know, I mean, okay, they're not going to have their water bottles back here because there's nowhere to put them, but you know what I mean? If they're throwing their juice around or whatever, you want something you can just wipe off. Brilliant. The plastics are okay. I will just say, you know, I mean, obviously there are areas where you can feel where the cost is being kept down, but that's Dacia. That's, you know, that we can't sit here and complain that it's not the quality of an Audi inside, because it's not the price of an Audi. And as I say, Dacia customers don't want that. So, you know, so the areas of sort of like plastic, yeah, I can see why some people say, oh, it looks a bit cheap and stuff like that. But that's what we want, you know, from the brand. So that's what they're giving us. So I can't complain too much about that. You get 2 USB-C ports down there, obviously for charging devices. But as I say, on the oh, sorry, what I should have said as well, if you've got 3 abreast, as long as they're kids, it should be all right. You know, the middle person has a slight transmission tunnel to deal with, and obviously this protruding cover here. But it's certainly bigger in the back than, say, the likes of the Jeep Avenger or the Fiat 600, which is one of the key rivals for this car. But yeah, I think this is good. I really do. I think this is a good car. It'd be nice to see a bit more storage, say armrest, stuff like that. But in fairness, I think it's good. Right, up front, what have we got? Well, the same again. This is probably the one area where you can just see some of those, dare I suggest, creature comforts sneaking in that I was a little bit concerned about. You know, do we really need this complexity of some of this stuff? But I do understand, as I say, they're hoping to attract more people into the brand, obviously, because they want to sell cars. So therefore, you have to start thinking, well, people are going to expect this sort of thing. It's like, for instance, you know, you wouldn't expect a car without air conditioning these days in the UK. So, you know, most cars will have it. In fact, I'd be surprised if there's one that's called in the UK that doesn't have it. You'll let me know in the comments down below, no doubt, if there is one. But that was one area where, as I say, there was a certain amount of things just sort of creeping into it, and I thought, do they really need that? I'm not so sure. Anyway, so let's start with the basic design of the dashboard. Sorry, the engine's just kicked in because I want to show you the dash. The basic design of the dashboard, I like. It's very good. Blocky, utilitarian. I like this kind of chunky Tonka toy look almost. Again, more Y shapes. You see, you get the element of the Y element there on the air vents, and the same with the door panel as well, the door handles. And you get this sort of blue. Now this particular one here is a Journey trim level. So you start with you start at the bottom with the cars. In fact, let me just tell you what it is now. So it starts with the essential trim level, which is the real kind of, you know, the Bertie basic one, and I'll talk about it a little bit later on. But then you move up to the Expression, which is the mid-range kind of car, and then it does the Y shape, if you like. And what you then have is, if you're a bit more urban focused and you want a bit more creature comforts, you go for this one, which is the Journey. If you're a bit more outdoors, you go that way and go the Extreme. There's the same equipment levels, but it's just the sort of design elements that are slightly different. So there's 4 trim levels, but the Journey and the Extreme are the like 2 top trims. They're roughly the same, sort of like, you know, in terms of price and things like that. But as I say, you just pick the one of which you choose. Interestingly enough, they're saying they're expecting the Extreme trim to be the most popular. That's the one they see as being the most popular. So there we go. Right, so the base model, the Essential, doesn't get this screen here. It has the smartphone holder. So in other words, you bring the tech to the car. So it pairs up your smartphone and you use that for your media and for your maps and things like that. There's no separate screen. Whereas you move up the models and you get this 10-inch. Is it 10-inch? Here's me thinking now. Hang on a second. I really need to do my homework before I can. Yeah, 10.1 inch. Sorry, we just got the information this morning. 10.1 inch media screen here. Again, 2 top trim levels, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So I love that, and I'm fine with that because I use Apple CarPlay and Apple CarPlay all the time. It's just my default thing. So I am glad I've got it, and it is wireless. And again, with the Journey and Extreme, you also get a wireless charging pad for your mobile. So that clicks down there. So again, and it's rubber lined, so the phone doesn't slide around when you're using it. And, so again, stuff like that I do like. You get this 7-inch display in front of you now, so a digital display in front of you now, which is okay. Again, there's quite a lot of information going on there. So speed, the gear indication, warning symbols, it tells you your fuel readout, your hybrid state battery, and obviously your trip meter and stuff like that. The base model gets analog dials. So again, I'm just wondering whether or not maybe they all should have analog dials. But each to their own. That's fine. I don't mind it. It's fine. It works. Nice squared off steering wheel. So again, it follows the shape of the dash. So when you're sitting here, you get nothing is obscured in that dashboard readout. So I do like that. So that's perfectly good. And just the right amount of stuff you get on the steering wheel. So media controls, you can adjust what information it does show you there. So there's 3 different sort of like screens, if you like, to see what information you want to see. You adjust that from there, you answer your phone from there, and then you've got cruise control over that side there. Okay. There is a little row of buttons along here. One is e-save, which I think is to save sort of like the power in the hybrid system. Headlamp adjustment, there's an economy switch, but there's a MySafe switch across there, which is the one I want to talk to you about. This is really clever, MySafe or My Safety. What it is my bugbear with all these things that are on cars as standard now, so lane keep assist, speed limit warning, all that kind of stuff. Renault are the only company that do it. You can personalise whichever one, and they've all got to come on when you start the car, every journey you make. So in other words, when you go into the car, you start the car, you've got to go into the screen and switch all those things off. What Renault do, and now the Dacia does, is you can program the ones you want to keep on. So let's say you want to keep on rear cross traffic alert and emergency brake assist, but you want to turn off speed limit warning and lane keep assist. You set that up there, and then you press this button. So when you get in the car the next time, you only have to press that button once and twice, and it defaults to your setting. That's fabulous. So you don't have to bugger about in this screen switching everything off on every journey. You've got it one button up there. You just need to press it twice, and it turns everything off that you want to turn off. Thank you. Thank you, Renault and now Dacia, for doing that. That's the best thing in a car I've seen in donkey's ages. Other manufacturers need to do that. The screen itself it doesn't use Google. So whilst Renault on things like the Megane, the Scenic, and and cars like that, the Austral, they use the Google and Renault's OpenR Link. Dacia don't have that, which is good and bad. I do wonder whether or not that would have been, if you're going to go have the complexity of all this other stuff, would you not just have been good enough to put in Google? But I do appreciate that. It's probably A, going to add to the cost, and B, it sort of then steps on the toes of Renault a little bit. So that's probably why they haven't done that. So as you can see, it is quite a basic sort of like form of the inbuilt sort of like thing you've got. So, your audio system there, with just your DAB stations list, you've obviously got your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then there's just these tiles here. So manage your devices for the Bluetooth, the radio, apps, navigation, inbuilt navigation, and then in here there's some car settings. So going into sort of like your hybrid mode, it will just show you when it's using the battery and so forth, and you can choose to put a pedestrian warning sound on, obviously for if it's running on the electric only. There's a My Driving mode. You can go into there and it'll just keep all your stats of your driving that's in there. The driving assistance stuff, that's where you go in there to set all the stuff off that you want. So in other words, if you want all on, or you wanted to set up your, see, traction control, active braking, all that kind of stuff, that's in there. You get a 360-degree camera on this particular car as well, which is quite handy. Certainly from where I am today, I've had to come up through a little bits of rocks and stuff, so that's been handy where I can see in front of me where the rocks are. So I'm not suggesting you're going to need that in Tesco's car park, but it's always there. It's always nice to have. And then, you know, then there's just like your vehicle settings as well. So things like, you know, Bluetooth to pairing your phones and stuff like that. So look, it's basic, which is fine by me. You know, I would have liked to seen the Google, but as I say, I appreciate it would have added to the cost. So, you know, I'm okay with it, you know, in the way it is. At least you've got the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Physical controls down here. So temperature settings, fan speeds. So you're not going into it, whilst they are up on the screen here, as you can see, you know, so, but you don't actually use the screen to adjust them. That's just the readout. So if you want to adjust your fan speed, it's the button there. Look. Great. You know, not having to use a screen to adjust your fan speed, you know, or to adjust your temperature. It's just a row of buttons. Hazards locking, a little storage tray in there for your Polements, which is good. The rubber wireless charging mat, a little bit for your key card down in there, which is nice. This nice little, you can also get the car with a manual gearbox, depending on the engine you go for. This one's the auto. Electric park brake, again, just little rubber kind of line trays here. My only other beef is this, Dacia, sorry, faux pas. You cannot put a water bottle and a coffee flask there and get that shut properly. And if you have to, see, so you put two cup holders there, but you can only put one, oh hang on, no, that one doesn't fit at the back there. So I can only get one actually in there. Thankfully my water bottle will fit in the door panel. So that's a bit odd. I don't know why you've done that, but that's beside the point. And then just your basic stuff like electric windows and electric mirrors on the door, as you'd expect. The material, the seat material, as I say, lots of, this one's got like almost like a denim finish around the side of it, which I love. That's really cool. But the extreme one is the one I really like, with that kind of, it's almost like a wetsuit. But as I say, it beads when you drop liquid on it. It's fabulous. Driving position is superb. It really is. You know, you get, as I say, this nice squared off steering wheel, so you can see the driver display there. Your hands fall neatly to, yes, it is. It's reach and rake adjustable. I thought for a minute I was telling you a wee untruth there. Reach and rake adjustable. You've also got height adjustment on the seat, and obviously forward and back, as you would expect. So, you know, it's just what you need. There's nothing more. There's nothing superfluous that you don't need in here. I can't really fault it. That's the only thing. That one little thing irks me. The fact there's two cup holders and I can't use both of them, but at least there's a space in the door for my water bottle. Yes, it'd be nice to see Google, but I understand why they don't have it. And I probably would have, I'm fine with the digital dash, but you know, I'd probably rather have Google and then an analog dashboard if it was personally me. But other than that, that My Safe button is just brilliant. I love this. I really do. Yes, it's hard plastics. Yes, it is. But that's as solid as the rock face behind me, that is. And that is going to take all the bumps and knocks that a family is going to throw at it. And that is what you want from a family car. Nothing else. Brilliant. Right, time to get technical and talk about engines and gearboxes and all sorts of things now. So basically, you don't get a diesel Duster now. No diesel in the Dusters. So it's petrol across, although you do get a biofuel option, which I think is quite interesting. So the lead-in model is a 1 litre 3-cylinder engine that runs both petrol and LPG. I thought that was quite interesting, and I said to them this morning, is there much call for that? And they went, it's 15% of all sales is that biofuel one, which they said, which means it's well worth it. So interesting, I thought. Right, so let's start with the top of the range one, which this one is. Okay, so this is the Hybrid 140, and this is a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder unit, which produces 94 horsepower on its own, but it has 2 electric motors and a clutchless mode automatic transmission. Total output is 140 horsepower and 148 newton meters of torque, and for the moment you can only have this in a 2-wheel drive drivetrain. If you do need all-wheel drive, then you have to go for the 1.2 3-cylinder mild hybrid. Now, it's not that much down in power, it's only 130 horsepower, so it's only 10 horsepower of difference. However, 230 newton meters of torque, which is very impressive, and obviously that makes it, you know, better as it's 4-wheel drive. Now that's through a 6-speed gearbox, 6-speed manual gearbox, and delivers drive to both axles. You can have that as a 2-wheel drive as well, so you can have that engine in a 2-wheel drive car as well. So with that engine, you get a choice of 2 or 4-wheel drive. The other 2 engine options, this one or the bi-fuel one, only comes as 2-wheel drive. So as I say, that last one is the lead-in engine, which is a 1 litre 3-cylinder unit that delivers 100 horsepower and 160 newton meters of torque through a 6-speed manual gearbox to the front wheels. But as I say, that has a bi-fuel capability. 50 litre tanks, I think it is, a 50 litre LPG tank and a 50 litre petrol tank on it, dual tanks, which is good. And Dacia say it produces around 10% less CO2 than a comparable petrol engine. So, again, as long as you're not really a diesel fan, there is something pretty much here for everyone, depending obviously on what you want. 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, dual fuel capability, hybrid, conventional petrol. There we go. What is impressive, however, you know, I was saying about things being a bit cheap. Look at that, gas struts on the bonnet. That's new. Right, let's get it out on the open road now and let's see how the Duster performs, shall we? So I've got this Hybrid 140, 140 horsepower, 0 to 60, 10.1 seconds, top speed's about, I don't know, 112 miles an hour, something like that. Enough, it's what it is. How does it perform out on the road? Really well is the answer to that. There's 3 things that I can fault it for. 3 things I can fault it for. The first thing is, whilst the driving position is very good, and it is very good, I really like it. You know, you sit well in the car, you sit high up, you can see the extremities, you can see the dashboard really easily. It's all very good. My left foot just can't seem to get comfortable. There's a little ledge on the side of the centre tunnel, which is obviously designed for your feet, but my foot doesn't go, and I've not got big feet, and I've got to sit with myself at a funny angle if I want to rest it on that. So what I have a tendency to do then is to stick it down the side of that, which means then my knee is resting against the centre tunnel. So if you are taller than me, let's be honest, that's not going to be hard, I'm only 5'8", go for a good long drive in it, make sure you're comfortable with the driving position. The rest of it's good, as I say, you know, the seat holds you well, you sit in the right place, but just that left foot I find a bit odd, and this is an automatic because it's a hybrid. So if you had the manual, I'm funny enough, I've driven the manual earlier, but I was on off-road, so I wasn't really concentrating on my foot position. Anyway, try that. So that's the first thing that I've got a little bit of an issue with. The second thing is the steering. The car is very manoeuvrable. You know, if you're driving this car round about town, you're not going to have a problem with it at all. You know, it's so manoeuvrable, and that was brilliant when you were off-roading, because you could turn around, you can really turn sharply, you've got steeper inclines and all the rest of it. The downside is the steering doesn't really weight up at speed, so it is quite light, and what you tend to find is, as you go into a corner, you sort of oversteer. You think it's going to be a bit heavier than it is, and it isn't. So you're constantly making little corrections at the wheel. That's what I would say about that. So that's my second fault. You get used to it, but it is there. The fact it doesn't really weight up at speed. The third thing is there's wind noise coming from over this side. So it's either the mirror or the door. I can't make my mind. I think it's the mirror. There's a bit of wind noise coming from that I can hear rustling around here. Which, okay, I'm hearing it because I've got my radio on or anything like that. But that's the 3 things that speak out to me now. As I say, I think the one that would bug me the most, I think, is this left leg situation. So as I say, if you are thinking of buying one, go for a long drive. Maybe it's like that in the old one, I don't know, I haven't driven the old one that far, so I haven't really noticed it, but as I say, I do notice it here. Right, let's get on to the good stuff now, because there's a lot to like about it. As I mentioned, you sit nice and high in the car, which means you can really see all the extremities of it. So, you know, the Jogger is a good little car as a family car. This is better. You sit much higher in it. And the bonnet, because of that new styling, the castellations in the bonnet, you can see exactly where the front of the car is. You get this lovely view down the bonnet with these two valleys either side of that central hump. So you can really place the car well. Also as well, you get good visibility out of the rear through the mirror. The door mirrors are nice and big, so there's a good view back out of them. And if you're just turning round, yes, there's a little bit of blind spot where that rear window is, but it's not horrific. It isn't horrific at all. So that's quite nice and easy just to sort of like see out of. So as you're kind of over the shoulder view out of junctions and things, it's actually not bad. So that's what I will say. You know, there's a good view out of the car. It's very easy to place the car round in corners and sort of like round little tight bits. So say you know, you spend your time, you know, going out to Sainsbury's car park or the railway station car park or the school car park or whatever. It's very, very easy to see where you're going and, you know, to position the car well. Plus, of course, depending on the spec, you'll have the 360-degree camera, you know, so any parking sensors, forward-facing camera and rear camera, all the rest of it. Okay. Ride quality is decent. Ride quality is very good. Now, I'm not really putting it to a massive test on these relatively nice roads in Derbyshire today, but, you know, the two-wheel drive car that this one is has a torsion beam rear end, which doesn't sound like the most sophisticated thing, but in fairness, it is not uncomfortable at all, and it keeps the car well tied down, and it does the right job of keeping the car placed well on the road. The four-wheel drive version has a different setup at the rear to allow for better axle articulation. So that has a slightly different setup at the rear, but the torsion beam rear end on this car is fine, absolutely fine. Last thing to mention is the brakes. The brakes have a good amount of stopping power. You know, there's a hill descent control on the 4x4, which interestingly works when it's in neutral, which I thought was very impressive. But I'm coming down, I need to be careful because Tish from Auto Social's behind me in a car. But if I slam on the brakes, it really hauls the car up. They are really good. They're very powerful, the brakes. It's not a particularly heavy car, so therefore you do have, you know, you don't have a lot of weight to actually, a lot of mass to stop. So, you know, kudos to you, Dacia. You've got some really nice brakes on the car. So, performs well, nice to drive, comfortable to drive, easy to see out of, easy to place on the road. As I say, sorry, I'm getting a bit tight down here. My downsides are, see look, I'm down a really narrow little street there, and yet you can exactly see where that side is as you're coming down, and it's very easy to sort of like just see, like that's really tight in this little market town. Oh, hello. See all the parking sensors going off there, but it was nice and easy just to steer around that, and that's where the steering, the light steering, really comes into its own. And as I say, you can see out of it nice and easily. It's a really good little car. It really is. I am super impressed with this. As I say, I know it's not the last word in, you know, sort of like B road, back road, B stormers. You know, it's just not. But it's not designed for that. It's designed to be just a good little family car. You know, that's easy to use, easy to drive, comfortable to drive. And it's all of that. It's absolutely all of that. I really like it. I really do. I think they've done an excellent job of this. And all the stuff that I love about the Jogger, you know, being just a sensible, easy to use family car, is exactly the same here. It's exactly the same. I can't really, you know, as I say, if you take it into context, I'm always a big advocate of, you know, reviewing cars as they're meant to be seen by the customer base that they're meant for. And as I say, if you look at it as just a relatively inexpensive, practical, nice to drive little family SUV, it ticks every single one of those boxes. It really does. I haven't really even mentioned the hybrid system at the moment. I will say this, the engine, you know, in the car, it performs really, really well. You know, you don't get, you put your foot down and it's got the power there, it really does. It's a great little car. It runs on hybrid, it runs on the electric power quite a lot, you know, so when it needs to, you know, it just pulls in the electric power and you don't really notice it. It's the same with the Jogger, but the one thing I will say seems to work better than the Jogger did is the gearbox. I always found that, it always felt like it was a bit of an old-fashioned style CVT, and it was really straining just to sort of like find itself. It's not the case here. This is much better. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. What a great little car. Right, shall we discuss about how much all this costs? Yeah, because right at the start I did say I was a bit worried that, you know, Dacia had forgotten the roots. You know, maybe they've pushed the car too far up market. What, you know, have they forgotten about sort of like, you know, the cost element of it, especially these days with the cost of living being, you know, forefront of everybody's mind. Believe it or not, it actually starts at a lower price than the outgoing Duster, as long as you don't mind going for the basic spec with that bi-fuel engine, you know, the 100 horsepower LPG engine, because that kicks the range off in the essential trim at 18,745. So under £19,000 gets you into a Duster. But as I say, you are going for that, it's LPG only, you know, as in the petrol LPG and the Bertie basic trim level. So as long as you're happy with that, you're into a new Duster for less than 19 grand, okay? You then have a bit of a jump up for the Expression trim level, which is 21,245. Okay, so again, that's the base trim level, sorry, the basic engine in that. I'm not going to give you all the prices, but 21,245 is where the Expression model starts. Then you move up where you have the Journey, which this car is. Okay, and again, you can have those cars with the choice of the two-wheel drive or the four-wheel drive. And obviously a choice of engines, and that the Journey trim level starts at 22,945 and then goes up to 25,945, which this one is because it's the hybrid 140. Okay, so between, say, let's say 23,000 to 26,000 pounds gets you in a Journey, and then 23,745 to 26,745 is where the Extreme model sets. Okay, so the top level, and as I say, Dacia say that the Extreme is probably, they anticipate that being their most popular trim level. So if you're going for that one, it's just under £24,000 to just under £27,000. But this Journey model here that I've got, this is the Journey 140, and the only thing that it has on it is this metallic paint. So another thing Dacia do is they don't give loads of, in fact, I don't think they do options on the car. The options that you can have on them are like the dealer fit accessories, you know, the stuff that you want, like that U-clip system or the sleep pack or the roof racks and stuff like that, stuff you buy from the dealer. So this one starts at 25,945, but as tested, because all it's got is metallic paint, 26,595. £26,500 for a well-equipped hybrid family SUV. I think that is good value for money. Right, when it comes to the competition, as I've said in plenty of other reviews, this is the biggest sector in Europe. You know, this B segment crossover / SUV sector. 1 in 5 new cars sold in Europe today is a car like this. So it's a very, very popular sector of the marketplace, which means there's an awful lot of competition that the Dacia has to face with the new Duster. So if you were looking at the Duster as that sort of mini SUV style of car rather than a kind of urban crossover, then probably Jeep's Avenger is the closest one to it. You know, the one that kind of offers that kind of the off-road ability that Jeep is renowned for. You know, it looks like a proper off-roader, much like the Duster does. I'm not sure, in fairness, as much as I love Jeep and as much as I love the Avenger, it's got quite the kind of roughy-tufty look of this car, you know, but you know, it's the main competitor that I would see for this car. And of course, if you're looking at the Avenger, and you are more sort of like urban based, then of course there's the cousin to the Avenger, the Fiat 600. So that's the other car as well that you could look at. Now, what the 600 and the Avenger offer that the Duster doesn't is an electric drivetrain option. As in full electric, not just hybrid. You've got the full electric drivetrain option, which is obviously something that Dacia don't offer. Not to say that it won't happen, we don't know, but at the moment there certainly isn't an electric Duster, it's hybrid, and that's as far as it goes. Okay, then again, of course, Stellantis Group, which obviously own Fiat and Jeep. There are obviously other cars from within there as well, which is the Vauxhall Mokka, the Peugeot 2008. Again, two cars that do offer electrified drivetrain as well. So again, that's another piece of competition for them. The other cars that you could consider as well, Hyundai Kona, electric option on that one as well. And of course, things like Renault Captur. It sits on the same platform, but again, it's more sort of like, dare I suggest, urban centric. That doesn't have quite the roughy tufty looks that the Duster has. So from that point of view, probably not. Then of course you've got people like MG with the ZS. Now that's just been refreshed with a new hybrid system as well. So the ZS, and it's a real value for money proposition. So don't forget about MG from that point of view. If you're looking at it from a price point of view, I think that's quite a stiff piece of competition for Dacia, that MG ZS. I haven't driven the new one yet. The old one was good. I suspect the new one is going to be better, and as I say, a lot of people do rate that car. So that's an interesting one to think about. Of course, you've got Ford as well, with the Puma. That's also a popular car as well. And Toyota with the Yaris Cross, which alongside the Dacia Jogger is probably my most watched video. So a lot of you do like the little Toyota Yaris Cross. So I think it's a little bit smaller, you know, in terms of rear accommodation and stuff like that, but still a good little car. And when it comes to hybridized drivetrains, that's an excellent choice as well. But as I say, what I'm trying to say is there's an awful lot of competition out there. I'm probably not mentioning half of them by just going through those ones. So there's a lot to choose from out there. But as I say, when it comes to that kind of Tonka toyish looks, maybe slight off-road ability, that kind of rough and tumble kind of family life that you get off one of these cars, then I'd say the biggest competition that I think is the Jeep Avenger. But I think this is a real standout car in the market, I really do. So the new Dacia Duster. Have Dacia forgotten their roots? Have they pushed this car too far up market? Has it become just another bland, faceless little SUV that just seems to blight the urban landscape of what's already there? Or have they given us something that we really should be sitting up and taking notice of? Well, I'm pleased to say it's the latter, because what this car is the old car improved in every single little way that they could have done. It seems to me what they've done is they've really sat down and have taken the old car and thought, right, what's good about it that we can keep and what needs improving on it? And that's what they've done. There's a new platform. It feels roomier inside. It's brilliant off-road, even though most people are never ever going to use half of the capabilities of the car. It has a great hybrid drivetrain. I would say it's better in the Duster than it is in the Jogger, and I don't mind it in the Jogger, but it's much better to drive in here. It's very manoeuvrable around town. It's spacious enough for a family. It's comfortable enough if you want to do a long trip in it, and it's versatile enough for what most families are going to need the car to do for them. And I think that's key with this. There are a lot of cars out there that, dare I suggest, are you know, more plush inside, maybe have better drive lines, maybe a little bit more economical, they're maybe got better to drive on the little twisty back roads and things like that. None of that's really important when we think about the marketplace the Duster's aimed at, and that is key. When you think about, as a small family SUV, what you need: wipe clean surfaces, the talk of sustainability and new materials that makes it not just cheaper to build, but cheaper and easier to repair. The U-clip system on the inside, where you can add and take away various different things to suit your family's lifestyle, so you don't have to pay for loads of pointless options just to get the trim level that has a one particular thing on it. That's the type of thinking that makes Dacia the success that it is, and it continues to be so. It's not perfect, as I say, there's a bit of wind noise when you drive, the steering's a little bit overly light on the back roads, But none of that really matters when you take it and put it into sort of like the perspective of what this car is meant to be, which is just a useful small family SUV. And on that count, it's very, very hard to fault the car. In fact, I'll go as far to say this: whilst there are better cars to drive on the back roads, as they're more economical cars, there are cars with more plush interiors. I don't think there is a small B-segment SUV that suits family life better than the new Dacia Duster. I think this car is an absolute outstanding piece of product in the marketplace, because Dacia know their customers, Dacia know the market, and they have delivered a product that fits neatly into that. In other words, I think it's the best small SUV that you can buy today. Thank you once again for watching another new car review on House of Cars. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, make sure you give it a little thumbs up down below. And don't forget, make sure you're subscribed as well. If you're not already a subscriber, I really would appreciate it if you become one. Once you've done that, press the bell button, because that's the way you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below as well. Do you have a Duster? Have you got the old one? Are you tempted to look at the new one? What's made you buy a Dacia in the first place? What lured you into the brand? And what would tempt you into this one? Have you come from a more expensive type of brand into Dacia? Why did you do it? What attracted you to them in the first place? Are you thinking about leaving Dacia? Have you had the old one and now you might be thinking, oh, I don't like the look of the new one? Why? Let me know everything down in the comment section down below. Now, if you're a fan of Instagram, you'll find me there. I'm at House of Cars 1973. So if you're a fan of the gram, that's where I am. Give me a follow there as well, because that does help. And remember, whether or not it is a new car or an old car, a small car or a big car, a slow car or a fast car, you're going to find them all here in the House of Cars. Thanks for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'll see you again soon.